Week one of the NFL season is upon us. The Arizona Cardinals just days away from kicking off things with a tough road contest in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans, a team that's been to the postseason in back-to-back years. How can they slow down King Henry in this juiced-up Titans offense? Alex and I, we've got that for you. Plus, a full season prediction, full game preview. It's all right now. It's Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's nearly time to rise up Red Sea officially for the first time of the 2021 NFL season. The Arizona Cardinals open things up in Nash Vegas against Derrick Henry, the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones. We heard about all those guys in yesterday's podcast from Tyler Rowland during our crossover podcast with Locked On Titans. Check it out, our YouTube channel, or, of course, wherever you find podcasts. It's Brack, Alex Clancy hanging out with you, and we're going to get into this game. We're going to give you our predictions about how we think things are going to transpire with the 10 a.m. kickoff here in the desert in Nashville, in the Music City. We'll see if there's another miracle on the books for the Titans, or if Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury can, in back-to-back seasons, surprise everybody with a victory like they did in Santa Clara last year. We're going to predict what the Arizona Cardinals record's going to be, Alex. Also, we're going to get into a couple of the lines in odds in this contest, according to our friends over at betonline.ag.
Yeah, we're going to unveil our Friday Five. We'll be doing it the third segment of every Friday podcast. We are going to predict the winner, the score, the spread, the over-under, and we have a fun prop every week that we're going to have. This time, it's going to be Kyler Murray and his rushing yards. Really interesting number. And Bo and I already disagreed with it. As you can tell, I've been hit by the I'm allergic to Bo Brock bug. And
right.
For those that live in Arizona, you have felt what I'm feeling right now. The Palo Verde trees have completely abused my life for the past 4.5 hours. And that's why I look like Rudolph the red-nosed damn reindeer. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I mean, it's all come to this. We're 48 hours away from Cliff Kingsbury potentially playing, coaching his last ever season as a head coach. And Steve Keim maybe not being a GM after the 2021 season, or the Cardinals flipping the script on the question marks surrounding them from a national perspective and local perspective. There's so many possibilities. We have no idea what's going to happen. So it's going to be awesome.
I feel like there's been such vitriol for Cliff Kingsbury this offseason, and it's kind of become a parody of itself. And it's going to take the Cardinals playing a game to either, obviously legitimize some of those, the criticism of K2, or kind of buck that a little bit. But, it is going to be interesting. I mean, I almost feel like sometimes some Cardinals, there are some people in the darkest reaches of the internet that aren't even rooting for their own team because they despise Cliff Kingsbury so much and they feel like he's so overmatched and overwhelmed as a head coach. We're going to see. I mean, this is going to be a great opportunity for this offense to kind of open things up just right out of the gates. As we start to break down this game, we heard from Tyler Rowland, and he didn't tell me anything yesterday, Alex, that inspired any faith in this Tennessee Titans defense. Like, their secondary is a complete rework. Malcolm Butler was their CB1 last year. They release a couple guys, they let Butler walk. He ends up retiring. Vance Joseph had some comments that were interesting about Malcolm Butler and his status, by the way. We'll tell you about that before we get out of here. But also, they let go of Adoree Jackson. He's now a member of the New York Giants, and they bring in, I guess his name now is Jackrabbit Jenkins, Janoris Jenkins, who has haunted Arizona Cardinals signal callers back in his Rams days, but a little bit longer in the tooth. That's your best corner. And then you got a couple young bucks, some guys at the Arizona Cardinals that you and I had talked about in the pre-draft stages. It was Elijah Molden from Washington, and, of course, Caleb Farley, the stud out of Virginia Tech. We'll see if he's good to go, week one, a guy who had back surgery before the draft. It's just interesting. And the historically bad pass rush, take into consideration as well new coordinators on both sides of the ball.
this is a game that the Cardinals should put up a 30 burger without breaking a sweat. And we're going to find out. We've talked about this a lot. We're going to find out a lot about both sides of the ball here in this game. It's a perfect litmus test. This is one of the weaker defenses, as you mentioned, as Tyler Rowland mentioned yesterday as well. The Cardinals need to show that this offense is legit. And I think, to Cliff Kingsbury's credit, and I've been one of his biggest critics this offseason, I don't think he's ever overmatched. He has the acumen to be an average head coach. But the expectations that he's going to elevate a roster that needs to be elevated to the next level is something that I think is out of his bounds. I don't think that's because if you're calling a coach overmatched, you're calling him dumb in a football sense in some capacity. You're calling him, his IQ isn't high enough to be able to run an organization. That's not necessarily the case. He's just at the lower level, the lower of the totem pole across the NFL, in my opinion, when it comes to elevating a team. So we'll find out immediately. You have 15 or 20 plays that you're going to script against a bad defense, a potential rookie CB1 in Caleb Farley, the apple of our eye with our Locked On NFL mock draft. The fact that he was, before his back injury, before all this stuff came out about him, he was the first corner taken off the board during the early mock drafts from the Locked On NFL mock draft with Trevor Sikkema and Benjamin Solak, who both moved on at this point. Caleb Farley was the guy. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of nuances right out of the gate with the Cardinals going into week one.
Yeah, 6'2", sub 4'3", 40. I mean, the guy's got all the tools. He played 2 seasons for the Hokies down there in Blacksburg, Virginia, and he balled out. But as far as, I got to ask this. Does Cliff Kingsbury suffer from some sort of test anxiety? You know what I mean? Do you know what test anxiety is? Like, you could study as much as you want, know the material, but when it comes down to it, to crack out your number 2 pencil and fill out the bubbles there, the Scantron, he just fails, right? He knows it. And then as far as, applying it and kind of executing it, it seems like he struggles.
I'm going to quote one of the top, this dude was on the top of the comedic world for about half a decade. Daniel Tosh, okay, during his breakout stand-up years ago, he said, those that, I'm great at studying, but I'm a bad test taker. He said, no, that means you're stupid. Because you have the knowledge, supposedly, right, but you can't regurgitate it. No, it means you're stupid. I mean, right. That's a paraphrase of his bit, and it's true. Who cares? I don't care that you can study, and if you can't show me, Bo, right, you're great until we turn the cameras on, and then this is what we get. So I'm used to it with you. So you're like the Cliff Kingsbury of the Locked On Podcast Network. If that's the case, if that's the definition. No, I don't think so. I don't think he has any anxiety. I think that he lacks the ability to see outside of himself and a way to improve. He's trying to perfect his system when maybe his system needs to be perfected in a different capacity than what it is now.
The Cliff Kingsbury in that offense is going to be, if not the biggest key to this Arizona Cardinals winning in week one. We'll get into the keys to victory here coming up. We'll get a better glimpse at the both offensive and defensive sides of the football. We're going to see Zaven Collins for the first time in a regular season game. I mean, talk about being thrown to the flames right out of the gate. Zaven Collins, I'll say it right now, I mean, might bury the lead a little bit, but has the ball out. I mean, he's got one of the toughest tasks in the NFL.
We're not nervous about him, are we? It's the craziest thing that he's not somebody that you're nervous about on this team, which is wild and maybe completely unfounded.
Yeah. Locked On Cardinals hanging out with you here on a Friday, gearing you up for Cardinals week one matchup against the Tennessee Titans. The NFL season about to begin. It's actually already begun. Dallas and the Bucs got after it last night, and the Locked On Podcast Network's hooking you up, getting you prepared with Locked On's Ultimate Season Preview, taking you through every team, every division, with the help of Odyssey's Ross Tucker and Jason Lockenfora. Follow the Ultimate Season Preview 2021 feed on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. It began August 30th. It continues. All right, it's wrapped up. Alex and I did ours with the rest of the hosts from the NFC West. It's a great episode. I highly recommend you check that out if you want to kind of be locked in and dialed in for this season before it really gets into full swing on Sunday. I also want to tell you about the best tasting protein bar on the planet. It's not even close. It's Built Bar. It's where healthy and it's where tasty collide. And it's only one place. you can have a tasty protein bar and you have to really compromise on the nutrition side, or you can have a really nutritional one and you've got to compromise on taste. You don't have to do that with Built Bar. It has 9 delicious flavors: coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, salted caramel, to name a few. You got to figure out which one you are. You can get a mix box if you'd like. Each bar has 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off your order. That's using the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Brack, Alex Clancy, he's playing hurt. He's playing hurt for you. He looks like his head's going to explode.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Claritin. Not clear yet. Not clear yet.
No. I got to admit, like, between somebody who's battling allergies like you are right now, and then like normal baseline Clancy, there's not that big of a difference.
Because I'm a stud in both. I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. My face is, at least I have some color in my skin now, instead of being pasty white. This is definitely an upgrade with that. Do you have any Kleenex?
Yeah. To avoid Arizona Cardinals fans having to, reach for the box of Kleenex Sunday afternoon, what's it going to take for this team to not stumble out of the gates? Because the Cardinals are a 3-point dog, and we'll get into, our predictions as far as the score and the total here. But, what's the biggest key to victory for the Arizona Cardinals in your opinion?
Scoring in the first quarter. Like if I'm the Cardinals and you win the toss, you take the ball. Like, let's not pussyfoot here, get, jump around and say, you know what? No, the right thing to do is get the defense on there and no. You take the ball, you go down, you ram it down their throats, you score a touchdown. That's what you do. Yeah. When you have a clear advantage, like the Cardinals offense does over the Tennessee Titans defense, you need to take advantage of it right away.
Yeah, score. That it's as dumb as it sounds. That's the simplest thing. This is a team that needs to come out of the gates. They need to kind of just put, to take the old stupid saying from the old Arizona State team, left lane, hammer down. But if you do that, you can, your defense is just like it was last year, where it can get you enough stops to win football games. It's going to come down to the offense performing, executing, converting on third downs, being efficient out there, and taking advantage of a weak defense in the Tennessee Titans. This is a Tennessee Titans defense that was pretty abused last year. Houston was in 2 tight games with them where they were scoring upwards of 30 points. You had the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had 1 win last year, that scored 30 points on this defense. It was a brutal unit last year, and nothing, like, you can't tell me, like, Bud Dupree coming off a knee injury and also playing opposite a guy like TJ Watt is going to be a difference maker, any more so than who they had in the building last year. You can talk about Autry in the middle of that defense. You can talk about the linebackers. It's just, I don't think it's enough, and especially with what you've populated as far as your weapons in the Arizona Cardinals. Like, I hope we're obviously going to see a healthy dose of DeAndre Hopkins. We're going to see, hopefully, a healthy dose of AJ Green and Rondell Moore and Christian Kirk, who is kind of the forgotten guy who can make big plays on this offense. And it's also going to come down to obviously the run game, having that run pass balance. Cardinals, if they do, go over that 30-point, number, they're 8-1 under Cliff Kingsbury. They have 18 touchdowns on the ground. They have 18 touchdowns in the air in those 9 games. That's the balance you're looking for. Got to have it.
Yeah, you need to see more playmakers than just Kyler. Like, and again, we'll hit the over/under for his rushing yards in the third segment in our Friday 5. But my dream for this year is for their offense to take a step forward while his running takes a step backwards. That's the dream. It's the dream scenario where you don't have to rely on it, but it's always a threat. Like Patrick Mahomes is a perfect example, and I'm not comparing the two by any stretch. Patrick Mahomes, right when you forget that he can scamper for 20 yards, maybe Russell Wilson's a better example. Right when you forget that Russell Wilson can eat up 25 yards really quickly in the middle of the field, he does it. And that's something that you want from Kyler Murray, not, let's, bump here, make sure he's not running the ball and then drop back into coverage. You want people to fear his arm more than you fear his legs in a perfect scenario, as you mentioned with the run game, when we say run game, and I think you agree with me here, that we're talking about the running backs. We're not talking about Kyler Murray, Because if
Right.
Kyler Murray's the running game, then you just may as well say, if Kyler does this, if he puts up 400 all-purpose yards, they're going to win a bunch of games. You want it to be separate. You want it to be separate.
When you look at Josh Allen, and he had a spectacular season throwing the football last year, and you didn't see a big drop off from his rushing stats. But if you see Kyler Murray approach where Josh Allen was rushing the football, and he had 8, 9 rushing touchdowns last year, and he's had 8 or 9 mostly every season, but he's around 600 yards rushing, and I think that's the sweet spot. And you really want Kyler Murray to go out there and distribute the ball, get the ball to his playmakers, do everything you didn't see in that small sample size against the Kansas City Chiefs at State Farm Stadium in week 2 of the preseason, where everybody's like, oh, crap, what's going to happen? The Arizona Cardinals have a big-time opportunity here, and if the offense can really just kind of hit the gas out of the gates, I think that they come out of there with a victory. I mean,
a huge win.
It takes away. I mean, especially as you said, if they come out of the gates and they score first and maybe put up, back-to-back scoring drives, and it takes away Tennessee's main threat, Derrick Henry. I mean, you could talk about AJ Brown, you could talk about Julio Jones, but it takes away the play action pass, and it takes away Derrick Henry. And if you look at the numbers as far as Derrick Henry rushing the ball over 100 yards, and what the record is for the Tennessee Titans, and when he doesn't, it's not even close. In losses, he rushes around 75 yards, and he's only got 6 touchdowns over that span. But as far as when he rushes for over 100, he's got 33 touchdowns in those 19 victories. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
since 2019. Yeah.
If you ask video game Madden players what team they would want to play with most, the Cardinals have to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5, top 4. So if you can see some sort of semblance of that and not the 3 words in one sentence that have plagued the Arizona Cardinals since week 1 of the 2018 season, when you and me, buddy boy, were sitting right next to each other in the press box when the Cardinals had 5 minutes of time of possession in the first half against the Washington professional football team with Alex Smith and Adrian Peterson's first game there. That's what it is. If you can master time of possession, you take Derrick Henry out of the game, as you mentioned. And obviously, if you put up some points, they have to throw the ball. If there's one weakness kind of to his game, it's catching the ball to the backfield, even though he's improved every year he's been in the league. But you're right. I mean, the best offense is not only putting up more points, but keeping the opposing offense on the pine, getting cold.
And, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Marcus Golden, those guys, if they are relentless, we know that Ryan Tannehill, when under pressure, can become a very pedestrian to below average quarterback. You can make, if he doesn't have the time to drop back and have the luxury of the play action pass being a weapon, he just becomes very pedestrian, as many quarterbacks in this league do. And in losses, Ryan Tannehill his completion percentage goes from about 70 to 60. And that's what you need for a big W. And, Zaven Collins, his assignment becomes slow down Derrick Henry, and that's easier said than done. I mean, that's nearly impossible. But I expect to see a lot of Jordan Hicks in this game, a guy who was named team captain, something that we didn't get to because of the crossover, but the team named team captains, and Jordan Hicks, that was a cool nod for him, and a kind of the team embracing him despite what was in the media, what he said at a press conference and open training camp. And I expect against the rushing offense like this, Jordan Hicks is going to be key in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be linebacker on linebacker crime, and one of the linebackers is the Tennessee's running back. He's big, and we'll see what happens. This is if you could pick the best possible matchup opponent for the Cardinals in week 1. Not too good, not too bottom feeder. They've got high points, they've got low points. It's probably the Titans. I mean, everything. Yeah. We're going to find out so much. And obviously, there's going to be overreaction Monday. I'm going to overreact. You're going to overreact a little to what we see. But we're going to get as much of a litmus test as one 60-minute game can show with all of the question marks the Cardinals have. All of them. What if Isaiah Simmons comes out and he's mauling after the quarterback, and we're seeing J.J. Watt get double-teamed, and Chandler Jones get double-teamed, and the A-gap and B-gap just open wide, and you see a 6'3", 250-pound man with a sub 4.40 speed just run after and ball hawk Ryan Tannehill. Like, we don't expect anything from Isaiah Simmons at all. You know, you're happy that he doesn't look lost anymore, but if Isaiah Simmons becomes a main cog in this defense, everything changes. You're not as worried about the cornerback room anymore. You're not as worried about Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt's sack totals, because we're probably going to be looking at that as a composite number between the two of them this year. Like, so many things could happen and so many things could go wrong. Like, we have it's going to be incredible. Like, I'm going to be on the seat of like, neither you nor I grew up a Cardinals fan. We're going to be on the edge of our damn seats for all 60 minutes. Like, what is going to happen? I'm so excited now. Damn it.
I'm getting that sense.
I made it. I'm super excited now. But at 48 hours, now the floodgates are open.
Sure. Bo Brack, Alex Clancy hanging out with you, and we're going to give our, as far as the Cardinals 2021 season, what we think their record's going to be. That's coming up next. Plus, we'll look at the spreads in this game, give a game prediction. Are we going to do player of the game as well? We probably should throw that in there, right? Offensive, defensive side of the football. Let's do it. Let's wrap things up. Oh, we're here. We're right there. It's a game preview. It's actually here. It's Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, talking about those spreads. The Arizona Cardinals 3-point dogs on the road. Football, yeah, you've got NFL already. It's here, and you've got college football. Had a big weekend last weekend and got another one on tap. BetOnline is your number one spot for all your pro and college football action this season. Hopefully you got in, of course, on the super promo last night where you basically couldn't lose. But also right now, BetOnline's got the odds, props, contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest, the world's largest 200,000 NFL survivor contest, open now at BetOnline. And guess what? You live in Arizona. You can go to betonline.ag with really no guilt at all. Head over to the website, use the mobile device, sign up today, receive your 100% welcome bonus. BetOnline, fastest, easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Cardinals 3-point dogs. Just mentioned it. I mean, looking at this one from BetOnline, +3, started at 2.5 when the schedule was released. I'll pull that back up. You'll get a score prediction from us. That will answer your spread. We've got a total of 52. My God. Talk about if you want to root for some points. And it was interesting when we talked to Todd Furman. He's like, everything has to go perfect. Like, we can't see a whole lot of Matt Prater field goals to hit that 52. So what our predictions will be as far as the final score, that'll answer our total. And then we've got a little prop bet, Kyler Murray, on a very polarizing subject from this offseason about how often he should run the football. Kyler Murray rushing yards will be our prop bet. And it's what's our 5?
Our 5
what's
five
the name
are game winner.
Yeah.
Score.
Yeah.
Spread, over under, prop of the week.
Prop
Friday
of the
5.
week. Friday 5. You want to give the Arizona Cardinals record prediction right now?
Yeah, let's do it right now. Oh man, this is brutal. We actually have to.
Yeah, it's finally here.
Bo, looking at the schedule, tell me where you can find 8 wins. Just tell me where you can find them. I'm going to say 8. Finish 8-9. Cliff Kingsbury gets fired. Steve Keim gets a contract extension, I'm sure. You know, the more they lose, the more Bidwell loves him. I say 8-9, and it's like Matt Prater joining the team is going to be huge. You know, hope he stays healthy the whole year. I mean, you know, he's 155 years old, but he's going to have, you know, a huge impact on this organization where Zane Gonzalez fell short last year. But I say 8-9.
I can find 10 wins on this season. It's changing the narrative, and it's doing a lot of what they kind of created some goodwill for themselves last year by winning on the road right out of the gates in Santa Clara against the San Francisco 49ers. They got to beat Sean McVay and the LA Rams for the first time, right? That's got to happen. That's got to be one of the things that they kind of check off their list. But, you know, they've got to probably finish 500 or better in the division. I think that they can win 10 games. I think they can honestly go 10-7 with a more consistent kicking game. You know, you can take wins. You know, they should win this game, I think. I think that they should be the team to win this game. I think their home opener is a very winnable game. I think Jacksonville is a very winnable game. And then you got a game against, you know, Houston. You think you'll split with the 49ers. Carolina, that should be a W. Depending on who's quarterback for the Bears, probably a W. Win against Detroit. Indy is a team that's interesting, and then Dallas. You think that could be a W as well. I think that as long as you continue to change the narrative, and Cliff Kingsbury shows that he belongs, especially as a play caller, you can reach that with the talent on this roster. No doubt about it. I'm saying 10-7.
Okay, so they started 2-0 in division last year, finished 2-4.
Right.
With the most favorable situation possible, with two backup quarterbacks, week 16 and week 17, back-to-back with the 49ers and Rams, respectively. They started 2-0, they ended 2-4. They've got to win 3 division games to get to 10, because that means that they're going to be, that means they'd be 7-2 out of division with the NFC North, AFC South, and the couple extras with, with Carolina and whoever else. It was, Dallas, the bonus ones. They got to win 7 of those suckers. And that's like, okay, just full disclosure, I hope they win 17 games. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. This isn't being negative on purpose.
Right.
This is just looking at the schedule and looking at how lucky they got last year with the quarterbacks that they faced. They came up short. Revisionist history, like, this isn't revisionist history. This is what we're used to. So that's where 8 wins could definitely turn into 10, could turn into 11. But we need to see early. They need to win on Sunday if they want to win 10 games, because this is one of the more winnable games, even though it's on the road against a playoff team.
Yeah, and if Jimmy Garoppolo comes out week 1 and shows that he's not the guy he was in 2019, like if San Francisco is poo-poo again, like you got to sweep them. You do. You just have to. Like in Seattle, and Dallas, I look at those two teams and I'm like, man, they didn't do nearly enough that for their defense. There's no way they can make a living. And obviously Dallas was horrible last year without Dak Prescott, but like Seattle, there's no way to survive that way by giving up that many points. And, I don't care how many sacks Jamal Adams racks up. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't impact the game enough. I mean, Kyler Murray could get sacked 4 times, all by Jamal Adams, and still pick Seattle apart like he did in the overtime winner. I just, I think that they should win 3 games in their division, take care of business at least at home, and really get that McVay monkey off their back. They have to.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, let's pivot to the Friday 5 here. Todd Furman said one other interesting thing. He said the number's at 3, but don't be surprised if it comes back closer to 2.5, right? He said something that Arizona, and with that, I am picking the Cardinals to win. I'm picking the Cardinals to win on Sunday. And this was a late revelation for me. It's going to be like 1,298 to 1,186 points wise, but I think the Cardinals are going to get a W because they have to. They have to. So I think they're going to get a W. Bo, your win-loss, or who's going to win the game?
I think the Arizona Cardinals win this game, but it's going to come down to the offense. It really is. I mean, we can look really stupid depending on which offense shows up week in and week out this year. It really is going to make us look foolish, because on paper they should win a lot of games. But if they don't, it's going to come down to the offense. It's not going to come down to that secondary, because if that pass rush can be as special as people think it can be, that's going to be a big difference maker. But as far as how they match up, this actually a playoff team that the Arizona Cardinals are taking on in week 1. This is a favorable matchup. As far as, obviously we're taking the Arizona Cardinals +3. We'll take that, maybe even money line it. But then you look at the total on this one. Let's take a look. What's our final score prediction for the Arizona Cardinals?
I think the Cardinals are going to put up 34 points. I think it's going to be like 34-27-ish. So I think the over is going to be hammered. I mean, I think they're going to score. There's going to be 30 points scored in the first half. So I think 34-27 Cardinals.
I think the Cardinals can win 31-24, but that's them getting out to a pretty comfortable lead. And then we'll see what their running backs look like playing and trying to, take the air out of the football and run clock. So if you're looking at 31-24, that's looking pretty good as well. I mean,
taking the over.
Yep. So, and then as far as the season win total, we told you 8.5. I have it over. You have it just under at 8, correct?
And then the final one for the Friday 5, Kyler Murray's rushing yards thanks to betonline.ag is 43.5 for Sunday, which is, it's like, why would you ever bet on anything ever? It's such a teaser. Like I'm taking the under happily. And I think that they're going to try and prove that Kyler Murray can be a quarterback that can be effective and efficient behind the line of scrimmage. So I'm taking the under of 43.5.
You're foolish. You're foolish for doing that. He only rushed for under that many yards in 7 games last year, and they were primarily at the end of the year. I mean, one of the games he barely even played against the Los Angeles Rams in the finale. So 6 of the 16 games, give me Kyler Murray rushing over 43.5. That's an easy over. It's a fun over. Give me Kyler. I mean, he could do it in 2 rushes. So it's going to be fun. As far as their players of the game, offensive, defensive players of the game, real quick.
Offensive, I think needs to be Chase Edmonds. Like, we need to see it. Like, you know what you're going to get from DeAndre Hopkins. You think you know. Like, AJ Green's been written off by everybody except for Louis Riddick and Josh Weinfuss, and me. Like, we're the triumvirate of AJ Green lovers, and obviously there's more. But Rondale Moore, we don't know. It's a wild card. He doesn't have to be. It's got to be Chase Edmonds. Show us the egomaniacal Steve Keim that he's right for once. Show us that you're an RB1. I'd love to see it. He'd be a great face of this backfield. Like, really, he would. And then defensive, it's Zaven Collins, and it's right away. It's like, let's see what you got, kid. We've seen, he was behind the line of scrimmage for the Dallas Cowboys on the first or second snap of defense in his preseason career. Let's see it. Let's see it 25. I'm ready.
Can I say the offensive line?
Always like to change things. Like when we did the thing with the ultimate crossover, when we're stealing a player from a different team as an exercise, you're like, I want Sean McVay. Yeah. You just make your own rules. Do whatever the hell you want. Do whatever you want. I'm done talking.
There's going to be a lot of clean pockets for Kyler Murray. And that might actually be detrimental to him hitting the 43.5 because you're still not going to see a pass rush from this Tennessee Titans defense. I think that it's going to be a fairly clean pocket from the offensive line. Hopefully, that would supplement your guy, Chase Edmonds, who you picked. I mean, if I have to pick one guy, moving people around, obviously the new guy, Rodney Hudson, he just settles down the offensive line and gets them ready to roll, and is kind of the leader out there, the anchor of the offensive line. That's what I'll say. But if I have to say somebody else, DeAndre Hopkins goes nuts in this game. I think he goes nuts.
How many are you choosing?
Well,
no, 11 guys. You just took 11% of them.
If you're going to make me go with like somebody who's going to
go with one person, like the exercise said.
Rodney Hudson, defensive side of the football. Defensive side of the football. Justin James, he's gonna get a sack. Hopefully, tip some footballs, and he's gonna make Ryan Tannehill look like Miami Dolphins Ryan Tannehill. Hopefully, but there you go. There are your predictions.
We can talk for another hour about this. Should we just keep going?
I don't even want to end it. Make sure you're catching up with me on the Locked On NFL podcast on Monday. But first, before that, Alex and I, halftime show of the Cardinals game. We're going to do it each and every halftime. Join us. Your thoughts mixed with our thoughts. It's just going to be a big party. And hopefully we're talking about good play that happened in the first half. And then also Thursdays, Alex is going to join the Locked On NFL crew, him and Tyler, who you heard on a crossover. They've got a great show set up for you that starts next week, next Thursday. So you're going to get 2 Cardinals hosts on your national podcast, the Locked On NFL podcast.
Yep, RJ and Yuma spoke it into existence. He said, why is Bo doing anything other than Locked On Cardinals and you're not? I said, I agree. I should have got that gig, but luckily now Bo and I will be the only co-hosts on the Locked On Podcast Network to both have a different day doing a different podcast. So thank you to everybody who's watched, who's listens. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We shifted to a world where talent doesn't matter, and Alex gets to host along with me on the national stage.
Can we end this? My nose is about to explode. Can we stop?
Yeah. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you at halftime of Arizona Cardinals football and, of course, betting on the NFL and the Cardinals. Doesn't have to be a guessing game. Listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get your daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favored picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday at halftime.